What is up, guys? My name is Sick Regan, and we are on F1 24 Driver Career Mode. Getting ready to start our rookie season in F1. We're picking our calendar right now. And because we're on console, I like to do 16 race seasons and rotate tracks in and out every other year. That way it keeps it a little bit more fresh. Just trying to decide on that 16th race at the moment. We'll be doing full qualifying and 50% races for the whole season. We'll have increased safety cars, increased red flags, and I'm going to leave Parc Ferme off for the first season as we get used to the new handling model and the very different setups. We will be creating ourselves and acting as a rookie in our first year in F1. I'll be using the same avatar that I used last year in my team, as they haven't created any new ones, and this is the closest I could find. Let's get the administrative stuff out of the way first, putting our name in, picking our nationality, getting everything set up for our rookie year. And there's no radio name that sounds even remotely close to ours, so we'll be skipping the next step. Moving right into our driver number. Lucky 13. Hopefully it's a lucky number for us this season. So let's go to one of our new features. What academy are we going to join? Very tempted by Red Bull, as they are my favorite team. But we want a challenge, so we're going to choose the Ferrari Academy. And I went into this thinking I was really going to pick Kick Sauber. I was very tempted by him. But then I saw Haas. All the way at the bottom, an American team with an American driver, myself, a team that's frustrated with one of their drivers, Kevin Magnussen, and they're going to replace the veteran Danish driver with the young American rookie driver. They're going to give a young, unproven rookie another chance. Hopefully it works out better than it did with Mick. We'll have to see how it goes.
Finally, let's do this for real. Sorry it took so long. You know what these legal types are like? Yes, sir. No, sir. Here's 80 pages of needless jargon, sir. Anyway, believe it or not, this is my excited face. Come on. Let me show you what we've got. So, all the usual stuff. Merchandising, likeness, blah, blah, blah. But the really juicy stuff is their expectation of you. They need you to challenge yourself all season, be the best you can be, dominate your teammate, become a legend. All that jazz. Now, it's over to you.
So here's the new contract section. Let's see what this looks like. Looks like we can set a target rating based on what our rating is now. A lowly 65. Don't want to get too greedy. I think 71's realistic, for our rookie season at least. The max is 75 anyway. I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver than the other way around. And we've signed the contract, and we are officially now on the grid as a Haas F1 driver. And it looks like Gene ponied up a nice signing bonus, as we've got ourselves into nice new digs. Either that or I need to give my agent a bonus, as this place is pretty spectacular for a rookie, even an F1 rookie. So this is the new career mode hub. Fancy new background. I see where EA put their resources for this game. And here we find ourselves on the brand new specialist page. It looks like we only have one specialist available, a manufacturing expert. So we have a couple of goals we can complete in order to unlock the first level, which would increase the success chances of our upgrades by 10%. So we're gonna choose the complete the weekend option. We should be able to do that. Go back and check our emails real quick. Comparison of our rivalry with Hulkenberg, but there's not been a race yet. An email from Ayao, the team principal, welcoming us to the team. And this page will keep track of how we're doing over the season, going towards our target goals, and what we have to do at a minimum to keep our seat. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on that page as the season progresses. We don't have enough resources to do any upgrades yet, so we're going to advance some time. And in this career mode, your teammate also gets resource points and can develop the car in any way he sees fit. And for the first time, we can see ourselves on the F1 grid among our peers. Alright, let's advance more time. Our teammate and I both get some more resource points, and now we finally can afford to go get our first upgrade. Looks like Hulkenberg's already got a weight reduction upgrade in progress, so that's actually very good. Weight reduction's always a good way to go. Looks like he's also looking at a front downforce upgrade, but I think we're gonna go for that upgrade. I think in the future, looking back on this, I would strategize a little bit better and probably go for a rear downforce, as I could have let him buy the front downforce. Just new things to learn in a new game. And fortunately, our first upgrade is a success, so we do get the weight reduction.
I'm pleased to say that our new parts have come through without any issue, so they'll be on the car ready for the next race weekend.
And there's nothing else to do but head into our very first Formula One race weekend. My teammate and I head into the briefing room right before the first practice session. The nerves will be running high right now. We want to impress our new team and show that we can keep up with our veteran teammate. Luckily for us, on our first weekend here in Saudi Arabia, it looks like the weather is going to be clear. We don't have to worry about inclement weather in our very first race against a veteran teammate with a brand new team. It's just one less thing we have to worry about on a very exciting but very nerve-wracking first weekend in F1. So the practice programs are complete. We spent the first practice getting a setup that worked for us. And then we did the quick practices and got some more resource points for developments in the future. Our all-important rating got a slight boost with some experience during the practice program. We definitely want a good showing versus our opponent in this first race, as we definitely need to get this rating up. And as you can see, even with the minor weight reduction upgrade, we are still the worst team on the grid. But the wait is over. Let's head into qualifying.
Welcome to the Jeddah Corniche, one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. But let's see who will be fastest of them all. We're about to set the grid for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yes, it's qualifying.
As we slip the helmet on for the very first time going into real competition, let's see what kind of times we can put in. Choosing a difficulty was a shot in the dark on a brand new game with a brand new handling model, so we'll see if we got it right.
Okay, when you're ready, let's go.
Coming in at turn 27, down the start-finish straight, getting ready to start our very first qualifying lap. Let's see what we can do. We're also experimenting with the new ERS, whether we want to use hot lap or we want to deploy and then toggle to medium. It's kind of up in the air right now. We're going to try a few different ways on a couple laps here. Let's get a good banker in on this first lap.
Okay, just 2 laps of fuel remaining now.
Thank you, Mark. It seems like a perfect time to tell me the fuel, even though I put the fuel load in. Coming through the high-speed sector now, we seem pretty well hooked up. Not pushing too hard. I don't want to put it in the wall on our very first qualifying session. As we head down the straight towards the banked turn 13. Trying to get a good exit here. As we head towards one of the tricky high-speed chicanes. We hook it up okay. The car actually feels a lot better than it did in practice. As in the practice session, I was down in near 17th. I was trying some pretty extreme setup changes. That might be it. Or maybe we're just more in tune with the car. I don't know, we were on light fuel in both situations though. hugging the inside, trying to gain every bit of time that we possibly can. Braking into the final corner, we get a little bit of understeer, but we'll try to make up for it with the exit. To the line, and it's a 131.2. Good enough for second at the moment, with limited runners. Apparently we picked up some wing damage at some point. I must have tapped the wall. That'll make Gene Haas real happy. Thanks for giving me a shot in your very expensive F1 car.
Car repairs have set us back a little.
Hopefully I didn't break it too much. But we very well may be forgiven as we've made our way into Q2. All the way up in the lofty heights of 10th. Let's see where our teammate finished up. Oh, down in 17th. Little less than a 10th off Sargent in 15th. So that's got to be disappointing for Hulkenberg. Watching his rookie teammate out-qualify him in the very first race. As we're putting a brand new set of softs on now, we did do a banker run on a U set, and we are currently sitting in 6th. Exiting the final corner now, heading down the start-finish straight. We're definitely going to need an improvement here if we want to make Q3, which would be an amazing accomplishment for us in our very first qualifying session. Just about even through the first chicane. Heading into turn 4, which is one of the hardest corners on the track in my opinion. We run a little bit deep, but we do manage to get through. Still slightly down on our time, about half a tenth. We have a much smoother exit through turn 10, and now we find ourselves a tenth up. Heading into the banked left of turn 13. We drift a little bit wide, losing about a tenth there. It felt like I had to wait a long time to get back on the power. And we lock the fronts into the turn 16 chicane and lose even more time. Hovering at about half a tenth up as we go through the slalom section. We do get a better exit out of the turn 22 chicane and find ourselves nearly a tenth up. Into the final corner now. Much better through there. Nearly 2 tenths up, but we're running out of battery. And we end up about a tenth up from what we had. Still struggling with the best use of the battery, but that's good enough to see us through into Q3 in 6th place. I think that Ferrari engine is really helping us out, as Jeddah is definitely a power circuit. Let's see what we can do in Q3. Although if I'm being honest, anything from here is kind of a bonus in my eyes, as we've already proven that we have some pace here in Jeddah. We only have one set of new tires left here in Q3, so we're gonna have one shot at this. One shot to get a good time in. Here we go. Heading down the main straight. Little bit of traffic ahead of us, but I think we'll be all right. Through the first chicane, heading towards turn 4. Run deep into turn 4, which throws us a little bit wide in 5. We're gonna deploy some battery towards turn 13, but we have a bit of a lockup and run a little bit wide into the bank left. Seem to be having trouble with that corner so far. Little too much curb on turn 16's chicane. We do manage to hold it all right, but we're running into the problem again of running low on battery already. I think we over-deployed in sector 1. As we're already down to 17%. One of the things we're definitely going to have to work on is our deployment strategy during qualifying. Into the final corner. Oh, and we have a big slide. A little bit of a tank slapper there out of the final corner. And we just yeeted our battery all the way down to 2%. And it's only good for a 130.8.
With qualifying wrapped up now, we have our grid lineup for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
But we did manage to qualify all the way up into 7th, which in my mind in a Haas is very good. So it's a pretty good start to our career. As we look on arrogantly and Hulkenberg weeps behind us, I'm not sure what's going on here. But we did beat our teammate, so that's a huge plus. And we get a nice boost in the pace, which is enough to push us up a rating. Let's see if we can keep this form up. Let's head to the grid.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula One World Championship. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah Street Circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Haas, Hamilton, Joe, Albon, Bottas, Russell, Oscar Piastri, Stroll, Sargent, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
I noticed that there was a Kick Sauber and a Williams also in the top 10, so Jeddah's throwing up quite a few surprises. I think the strategy is going to be somewhat straightforward. Mediums onto hards. Not sure how the different tire compounds feel yet, so that'll take some getting used to. The excitement and nerves are building as we start the formation lap. Gotta get the tires in a good window.
We're not seeing any technical issues coming off the practice starts. Watch the RPM on the full start. We don't want you to bog down.
It's another thing I hadn't quite considered. I'm not sure quite what the bite point is yet on the launch. So I guess we're gonna go off last year's game and just try to get the best start we possibly can.
No threat of rain for the time being. Conditions look good.
There isn't much divergence in the strategies as I think the entire field is on the mediums, which is going to make for a very, very chaotic pit stop and pit stop window for all the teams. It's going to get very crowded.
Superb parking there, mate. Let's make sure we get the edge on the surrounding drivers as the lights go out.
And the 5 red lights. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is underway. And we get a pretty good launch. Just trying to keep it clean into the first chicane. Oh, and we have a little bit of a lockup, but we managed to survive it. We do manage to keep it clean into the first corner, avoiding any damage. As we see that Fernando Alonso has nicked the lead from Verstappen. The Red Bulls and Ferraris are 2 by 2 behind him, followed closely by a Haas. As on the first lap, we find ourselves in the rather lofty heights of P6, ahead of the McLaren and Norris, and right behind the Ferrari of Leclerc. We are actually managing to keep pace with the Ferrari. We're within the DRS, which will be activated at the end of this lap. So it's even more important that we stay close. As we check on Norris to make sure he's not going to make a dive on us. It looks like he's going to hang out behind us, at least for the moment, as we head into the first chicane. There is some battling ahead of us. It's Verstappen and Alonso in a fight for the lead. But that's allowed us to close back up to this group and right behind Leclerc. And the battle for the lead is reignited as Verstappen pulls out of the slipstream, pulls up beside Alonso, and Perez is going to try to make it 3 wide. But the second Red Bull gets squeezed out, and that leaves him vulnerable to Sainz down the inside. Alonso's going to try to fight back down the main straight, and the top 4 are side by side going into the first chicane. And now it's going to be 3 wide with Sainz trying to dive up the inside, although Sainz smartly backs out of it. And I think Alonso's going to manage to hold on to the lead. Perez and Sainz are still side by side, going into the tight turn 4, and they're still side by side through the high-speed corners of the first sector. It's a pretty impressive bit of driving, but they're losing tons of time. But neither one of these drivers seems willing to give an inch. And they've slowed us down so much. Nearly 2.5 seconds back of second place now. And they're still side by side through turn 13, the banked left-hander, which is the gateway to sector 2. And Perez manages to pull just ahead. But this battle is far from over, and they're slowing everybody down, has given us a run on Leclerc. We're going to try to go up the inside. Leclerc chops across us. Try the outside, back to the inside. And Leclerc was very aggressive in his defense there. I would almost say overly aggressive in his defense. But we go from the hunter to the hunted as Norris tries to make a dive on us down the inside of turn 17. We're going to use the battery to try to stay ahead of him. And after all that, we have Hamilton in 8th also sniffing around right behind us, waiting to pounce on any mistake. And just ahead of us, we have both Ferraris and the Red Bull 3 wide into the first chicane. And right behind that, Norris and myself are going through side by side. We do manage to stay ahead of Norris heading into turn 4. And now it's the 2 Ferraris that are going to go side by side through the first sector and the high speed. We are seeing some absolutely epic driving from the top drivers in the world. As Sainz tries to go around the outside, but Leclerc's holding it. And all of this battling has allowed Alonso and Verstappen to open up a 6-second gap to the rest of the field. And the battling Ferraris has opened up an opportunity for Norris to dive up the inside of us into turn 13.
Try to stay with them. They might make a mistake and we could still regain the position.
And the McLaren has managed to slip through us. We're going to dive back up the inside into the chicane. That was a dangerous move. But we have managed to regain 6th and maintain the DRS to Perez in front. But we make a little bit of a mistake into the chicane and get a slow exit, which allows Norris to try to gain on us and try to go around the outside heading into the final corner. A little bit of contact as Norris just squeezes us into the sweeping left-hander. And here's why. Hamilton had made it 3 wide into the final corner, so Norris didn't have anywhere to go either. The McLaren has pulled ahead though, and that's dropped us down to 7th for the moment, but we're gonna dance to the inside and try to regain the position into the first corner. We do manage it improving up to 6th. Norris to 7th, and now Hamilton's got a fight on his hands with Zhou in the kick Sauber. As they go side by side into the fast section of Sector 1. Hamilton does manage to stay ahead, but going side by side there loses you so much time that Hamilton has dropped out of the DRS of Norris.
Okay, mate, Leclerc ahead. They're holding us up now, so let's please try and get past as soon as possible and get on with our race. Push, push.
So we just got our first objective from Mark, and apparently the Ferrari is holding us up. I'll do my best here, Mark, and I appreciate the confidence, but we are still in a Haas, bro. As Sainz looks to dive up the inside of the Red Bull into turn 17, and he gets through. That's the cleanest pass we've had this entire race so far. But Perez is gonna fight back down the main straight as Leclerc moves over to tuck in behind Perez. Sainz and Perez are side by side into the first chicane, and this battling might actually give us the opportunity we need to get past Leclerc, as it's allowed us to close right up to the back of him. And Sainz did manage to stay ahead of Perez, as Perez has been dropped down to 4th. And 6 seconds further up the field, we have a battle for the lead as Alonso retries to take first place. And then Aston Martin, at least in his hands, has been absolutely rapid this entire race. He has, on absolute merit, managed to stick with the reigning world champion in the Red Bull. As we see the other Red Bull of Perez attacking Sainz. Sainz went very defensive all the way to the inside wall as Perez gets a bit hung up on the curb, allowing Sainz to hold it around the outside and maintain the final podium spot for the Ferrari, as I'm doing everything I can to get up to the back of Leclerc and the Ferrari so I can get past and achieve this objective. But every time I get close, he manages to pull away on exit. I don't know that I'm going to be able to achieve this, and burning my battery to get close has left me open to attack from Norris in the McLaren. We do manage to dive back up the inside of turn 17, but Norris tries to switch back. We just managed to out-traction him out of turn 17. As we see Leclerc and Perez side by side.
Seconds.
And we get it all crossed up and lock up, nearly and clattering into the back of Leclerc. I'm definitely starting to feel the tire wear now on these mediums, as Norris thinks about a dive, but smartly backs out of it as we're going into turn 4, waiting for a better opportunity. As I am burning battery, trying to get up to the back of Leclerc, still trying to get this objective. We get close through turn 13. We get into the dirty air and have a big slide, as we're just pushing so hard to try to get past him. And the offboard looks even worse than it felt onboard, actually. As now we've used a lot of the battery, but it wasn't to catch Leclerc, it was to try to stay ahead of Norris. As I think the cars really use their batteries in this third sector. As we have another snap of oversteer, this time out of turn 27. I think the tires are just about done. Lap 9, and as we approach the pit window, I don't think we're the only car struggling on these tires, as the battling has calmed down over the last lap and a half, as I think everyone's just trying to eke it out for the next lap or two, until we can put on a new set of hards. I did give it my best shot to try to get past Leclerc, but it was always going to be a long shot, as this was a fairly difficult objective in my mind. The Ferrari just has a much better car than us right now. I'm proud that we've been able to stick with them. Up ahead, I see some more battling between Perez and Sainz, heading into the final corner. As we lock up, and that's going to give Norris an opportunity to dive up the inside. Side by side, heading down the pit straight. We managed to just stay ahead of him, and ahead of us, Sainz and Perez are side by side, And it looks like Leclerc's gonna make it 3 wide. As we switch to our point of view to see that 3 wide battle ahead. And Norris tries to make a quick move around the outside while our attention's focused ahead. But we're able to squeeze him out into turn 4. Just managing to stay ahead of the McLaren. End of lap 10, and Norris isn't done yet. He's gonna try the inside of turn 27 this time. As Leclerc and Perez and ourselves and Norris are side by side heading down the main straight. As I guess I was wrong about the tires wearing out, as all these battles have just kicked off again. And even further back, Joe and Russell are having a battle for P9 and 10. As this race has just been pure chaos and epic battling since the start. As we have managed to hold off Norris one more time. Hamilton holds the fastest lap down in P8. As he's tucked up right behind Norris.
Running very, very hot. Engine's running hot. Let's try and keep it cooler.
So our new objective now is to try to cool the engine down. So I'll do my best to stay out of the hot, dirty air of the car in front of me. Although with Norris attacking me, I don't know that I can keep the engine temps down, as I'm having to push so hard to maintain my position. And our rear right tire is a little bit hot right now. We're kind of at the top end of the temperatures on the right side altogether, but the right rear is definitely hotter. As we get a beautiful bird's eye view of the Jeddah Corniche circuit. We make a little bit of a mistake into that chicane, as we took a little bit too much curb and kind of slid off to the inside as we race along next to the yachts in the Red Sea. And the rear end of the car started to slide around quite a lot, which is not doing any favors to the temperatures. And I think it's time to pull the trigger. Time to come in. So we split off into the pit lane, along with about half the field. We're in such an intense battle with Leclerc and Norris that we really need a good pit stop from the crew here. We got held a little bit, but it was a pretty good stop at 2.5 seconds, and this is just painful. The Kick Sauber of Bottas has a slow pit stop, and this game is even more realistic than I thought it was.
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
Need a good outlap here as the rest of the field will be making their stops on the next lap. So we gotta push it, but we gotta be careful as the tires are cold right now. Sainz is your leader at the moment, but Alonso is your net leader all the way down in P11. As Sainz and Perez come out of the pits right in front of us, the order hasn't changed much. We've been able to maintain P6, which is a really positive thing for us. We have managed to pull a 1.5 second gap to Norris, which will help alleviate some of the pressure he was putting on us towards the end of the last stint. At least for the next couple laps, and give us a chance to recharge our battery all the way. And Alonso has pulled a 2.5 second gap to Verstappen following the pit stops. Not sure if Red Bull had a slow stop or what, but Alonso is leading this race, giving them their best opportunity to win a race since 2020, when they were still Racing Point. And the battle between Perez and the two Ferraris is heating up again, as they're going 3 wide into turn 27, with Leclerc stuffed between Sainz and Perez. It looks like Perez and Leclerc had a little bit of contact there, as Leclerc's trying to go back past down the main straight, as Perez has gone defensive against Sainz, and this has allowed Leclerc back into the podium position, as Sainz tries to go all the way around the outside of Perez, and he's done it, and he's pushed Perez all the way down to 5th, as he's the car right in front of us now. We find ourselves chasing a Red Bull and 2 Ferraris in our first ever career race.
Use your overtake button more. It's time to utilize.
And to be honest, finishing 5th in my first career race would be an epic achievement. And I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts, because I'm pretty sure Ferrari and Red Bull are going to be able to outdevelop us this season, and we'll be out of reach by the end of the year. Checking in on the leaders now. They have a 7-second gap to the rest of the field. And Verstappen has whittled that lead of Alonso's down to 2 seconds now, as Verstappen's pushing very hard to get back into the fight for the win. As we watch Norris and the McLaren using DRS to recapture 7th place from Hamilton and the Mercedes. But Hamilton's gonna fight back. He's tucked into Norris's slipstream, using the DRS heading into the first corner, and Hamilton manages to get back past and cut aggressively across Norris to keep him from attacking again. The battling in front of us has slowed them down so much, nearly clatter into the back of Perez. Although these three have single-handedly kept me in P5, as their battling has slowed them down significantly and kept them at something closer to the pace I can maintain in this Haas. Although as the race has gone on, I feel like I have gotten faster and more consistent, getting more used to the handling, getting used to driving this car. So maybe it's not all them, as we are right on the back of Perez now. As we come to the end of lap 15, this battle continues to rage right in front of me. This time it's Sainz and Leclerc side by side heading into the first corner. Perez looks like he's gonna hang back this time, as there's clearly no team orders at Ferrari right now. They're just gonna try to let one driver assert dominance, as we lock up and nearly go into the wall there. That was closer than I'd like to admit to ending our race in tears. We run a little bit wide, but we tighten it back up. But we have a big slide heading out of turn 10, and after being consistent for the last 5 or 10 laps, I've started making very rookie mistakes. We check in on Alonso, and Verstappen has closed that gap down to just over a second. He may get DRS on this lap, as Verstappen has been pushing to the max, trying to catch back up to Alonso. As after our struggles in Sector 1, we put up a purple Sector 2, trying to get back into the DRS of Perez. But Hamilton's gonna try to attack us around the outside into the final corner. And we did just manage to get the DRS on Perez ahead, which should allow us to defend Hamilton.
Strong, but be aware these tires need to go the distance.
And Verstappen has caught all the way up to Alonso with DRS now. He's gonna challenge the Aston Martin around the outside, but Alonso's not ready to give it up yet. He's desperate to win a race, as he hasn't won a race since 2013. And he has managed to maintain the lead, as we just scraped the wall with our front left there on the entrance to turn 4. As we're pushing very hard to keep up with Perez in these Ferraris.
Okay, mate, lap times are a little erratic at the moment. We need consistency, so let's try and stabilize them.
He wants me to put in a 1:35.3. That seems a little bit slow to maintain where I'm at, but as the Red Bull of Perez looks to make it 3 wide into the final corner, and Hamilton attacks us into the final corner, and Norris is trying to get involved as well. There's 6 cars fighting from 3rd all the way down to 8th here, and as chaotic as this race has been, any one of us could get as many as 15 points or as few as 4. This race has been absolutely crazy, as Sainz and Perez is battling, has backed Leclerc right into us. We're nearly pushing the Ferrari through the corner, although Leclerc does get a good exit. He pulls a little bit further away from us, as Perez has jumped from 5th back up to 3rd. At this point, it's hard to keep track of who's where, and the battle for 9th through 13th is tight as well, as some of these drivers are going to be left without points, as Russell pulls out an Albon slipstream to attack him. And Piastri gets involved too in the second McLaren. Russell and Albon are still side by side. And even further back, Ocon and Stroll are side by side. As Stroll goes all the way to the pit wall to defend from Ocon, and Russell tries to slip past Albon, but the Williams is desperate to hold on to points and manages to out-traction the Mercedes, holding on to 10th. As Norris in the McLaren looks like he might make an audacious dive into turn 4, but thinks better of it, biding his time. Hopefully the team will be willing to pass me on my objective if I'm consistent, but consistently faster than those lap times. As Russell and Albon are going at it again at the end of lap 19. With Piastri and both Kick Saubers sitting there waiting for a mistake. Waiting for an opportunity. And Piastri's gonna make it 3 wide. Russell manages to squeeze through, as does Piastri, dropping Albon all the way down to P11 and out of the points. As we're trying to stick onto the back of Leclerc, we have a little bit of a slide in turn 5. But we managed to control it, managed to keep it smooth, and we are gaining on Leclerc slightly through the high speed, but he's getting way better exits than us. Tires look like they're still okay. As Alonso and Verstappen have an 11-second lead on the rest of the field. But that doesn't mean there's no intrigue. They are battling for the win, as Alonso's pushing really hard to keep Verstappen behind him. Verstappen tucks in behind him with DRS. And he's able to go around the outside into the final corner. And he's cleanly through. And the Red Bull's back into the lead with 5 laps left to run. As Sainz, Perez, and Leclerc going 3 wide into the first corner. And there's contact between Perez and Sainz. None of these drivers are willing to give an inch. I actually backed off a little bit there so I wouldn't get involved if there was contact. And Perez has got himself back onto the podium, with Leclerc in 4th and Sainz all the way down to 5th. This may come down to the last lap, and who has DRS last. Towards the end of lap 21 now, and the battling just continues as Leclerc's gotten through.
Really good. You hit that target nicely. There's a long way to go in this race, so let's keep it clean.
And Sainz was dancing left and right and made his way through as well, pushing Perez all the way down to 5th. And we did manage to hit our targets. That will help our recognition scores. So there's another positive to be taken from this race. There may be a lot of positives, as I'm not sure where we're going to finish yet. Verstappen and Alonso have been the absolute class of the field for the entire race. Nearly 13 seconds ahead of everyone else, but still fighting for the win. As Verstappen uses the DRS to take over the lead from Alonso, I've lost track the amount of times the lead has changed hands this entire race. It's been many, many times. And Perez is pushing to make this 3 wide into the final corner again. As close as these guys have been the entire race, I'm absolutely shocked we have not had a safety car, or even a virtual safety car yet. As everybody tucks into the slipstream, getting ready to attack on the pit straight. Sainz is dancing left and right. Sainz looks to be getting incredibly frustrated as we look for an opening as well. We're going to try to dance our car up the inside of Ferrari. We get better traction, and we're up into 5th place, dropping the Ferrari down to we very nearly crash into the back of Leclerc. That was scary close to an incident. We very nearly lost our wing, or worse, as we all concertinaed up, still trying to get my heart rate back down. As Sainz is on the attack, trying to get his position in 5th back, along with Leclerc, who manages to get past Perez back into the 3rd. And Sainz did manage to get past. We're gonna dive back up the inside. We nearly run into the back of Perez. We had to lock up the brakes. Miracle there was no contact there. And we make it back into 5th as Perez uses the DRS to get back past in front of Leclerc. And Norris has slipped past Sainz, dropping Sainz all the way back down to 7th. Remember I said earlier you could get as many as 15 or as few as 4. As Norris and Sainz are side by side through turn 4, and Sainz manages to get back up into 6th. That battling between Norris and Sainz has given us a bit of a breather as it's dropped Sainz out of our DRS. So we'll get a little bit of a break for at least one lap. But we have to stay in the DRS of Leclerc as we try to consolidate our position here on the penultimate lap. Perez is clinging onto the final podium position, being chased down by Leclerc and by ourselves in 5th place, not far behind either. And the Ferrari and Red Bull go side by side through the final corner, heading on to begin the final lap of the race. Leclerc with DRS pulls out of the slipstream. Perez has gone defensive.
Final lap, push.
And they're still side by side going through the first chicane. And Perez manages to squeak ahead and just hold on to that final podium spot. Leclerc will have several more DRS chances, however, as we try to stick with them through the fast section of Sector 1 for one last time. Although Sainz still hasn't regained the DRS on us, so I feel like we're in a good position to be able to attack without worrying about what's coming up from behind us. Verstappen is clinging onto the lead in his Red Bull. Alonso is just behind him with DRS. One more chance for Alonso. Both cars are harvesting battery right now. He has this DRS zone and the one down the pit straight, side by side through the final corner now. Verstappen still pulls ahead. Alonso does have the DRS. It's going to be close at the line. And Verstappen just edges him out for the win. And unlike Alonso, we saved some battery for this part of the race. As Leclerc is harvesting, we are gaining rapidly on him. And we are right behind him through the fast chicane. We're going to have one more DRS zone. And Leclerc chops across us and we make contact, nearly lose the car. And Leclerc is able to slip by Perez. And we go side by side with the Red Bull. But Perez dives it back up the inside, be able to get back through. We have one more DRS zone down the pit straight. We're gaining rapidly on Leclerc. Perez gets back by and we just fall short.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Another 10 feet and we got 4th. That was so close at the finish.
They've delivered an outstanding performance today and under intense pressure to take a well-earned victory at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Well, you're always unsure of the competition and what your opponents have been able to do in the off-season, Crofty, but
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everybody at the team.
Well, Perez absolutely earned that last spot on the podium in his battle with both Ferraris. And honestly, Alonso or Verstappen both deserved the win today. Both were dominant, both were absolute class of the field. But that's got to be a bitter second place for Alonso. So close to the victory.
Fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
We'll take a quick look at the standings, but as it's only been one race, it'll be exactly how everybody finished today, including our teammate down in P19. But the constructors race, Red Bull in first, followed by Ferrari, Aston Martin, and then Haas. So for the moment at least, the American team is up in 4th in the constructors. And once again, we are celebrating beating our teammate, because the best way to make friends with a veteran teammate as a rookie is to rub his snoot in all of his losses. Or so I'm told. And we're going to get a huge boost in ratings from that successful race. We'll definitely take that while we can get it, as we're going to be bumping the difficulty up for the next race in Japan. Hulkenberg is still the preferred driver, obviously. But we did get a lot of good credit towards our manufacturing specialist. And that's all I got. Until next time in Japan, goodbye.